Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. I'm a divorce lawyer who is passionate about helping all of us to use the adversity and difficult things in our life to show up as the best version of ourselves. We don't want to just survive through life. We want to absolutely thrive. Speaking of thriving, Aaron Bender is here today.
Excited about this guest as we go from me to we. You've said I've been obsessed with it this morning, and it's true.
Yes.
It's true. I like a little catchy phrase.
Yeah.
And
you've had so many we jokes this morning.
Kyle is going to walk us through the process of turning our attention toward the group and not necessarily inward. I'm curious, as the owner of a law firm with many, many employees, you didn't start out that way. What was that transition like?
You know, I was like, it was just me, myself, and I for about 10 years. But what I actually realized, and I guess I should have thought about this answer prior to this moment, but I didn't. But this is what's coming to my mind right here, right now, live on
Going
camera.
off script.
Yeah, is I was really always so focused on my clients. And I was so focused on, how do I help them get through this? How do I help them use this terrible circumstance to do something, greater with their life? So actually the transition was really easy because Aaron, at our firm power hours and like firm outings, I talk about this a lot where my focus, it very easily transitioned from my clients to my staff. Now I'm looking at my staff going, how can this opportunity to work at the law firm, how can that help them show up as the best version of themselves? How can this opportunity at the firm, help them achieve their goals? So I feel like it's never just been me. It's always been we, but the original we was like me and my clients, and how do we collectively make that better? And now I've transitioned to the team and I, to that we, and how do we achieve goals together, and how do we become the best versions of ourselves together? And I think that transition has been pretty easy. We are joined today by Kyle McDowell, author of Begin with We, 10 Principles for Building and Sustaining a Culture of Excellence. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, Holly, man, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So I read your book. Great book. Because it's really about building culture within an organization. And would you agree or disagree, like culture is more important than ever?
It's the only thing. It's the only thing. Yes, now more than ever, because historically, as you know, the company, the organization, the corporate world was able to set the terms on what it would take to work here, what it would take to join our team. But with the proliferation of work at home and technology being what it is, we're no longer confined to zip codes. In other words, the employee has more options than ever. Right. So culture is more important than ever because we need to create an environment that people actually want to work with us and work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's wow. That's profound when you're like, it's the only thing. I'm still stuck on that. So I don't even know where I want to begin. Let's begin with, I don't want to take our whole conversation with you explaining, like going through the 10 principles, because I got a lot of other questions that kind of dovetail off the 10 principles, but can you tell us kind of quickly, what are the 10 principles?
So let's start with the definition, because I think it's often misunderstood. A principle is a foundational belief. It's our foundation for a system of truths, something we hold to be true. And after nearly 30 years in the corporate world, I realized there is a significant gap in establishing those expectations for the team, the members inside the organization, for how we behave, how we treat each other, how we lift each other up when we're struggling, things like that. So for me, establishing principles, my leadership principles, which by the way have transcended into my personal life as well, it was important for me to create these kind of guardrails to tell the team, here's what you can expect from me, because I'm going to have the same expectations of you. And they were just a way for me to kind of document and share and hold accountable for behavior of rarely do organizations do this, right? You hire someone, you say, here's how you do the job. Here are the X's and O's. Here are the forms you must check. Here are the blocking and tackling things. But so rarely do we see organizations or leaders say, here's how I expect you to operate inside this team.
Right.
And I'm comfortable being really overt with those expectations because I want you to have those same expectations of me as well as your leader.
Yeah.
And actually mean it.
Right. So I have a quick question that I want to interject, because as you're talking, of course, I'm thinking about my own organization. I own a law firm, and what made me think of it is we have a set of core values, and so when we hire and onboard people, they go through what we call MFLGU, More Family Law Group University, and part of it is sort of like indoctrinating them into our way of life inside the firm. And most often what I hear is, oh my gosh, like I've never actually worked at a law firm that has these values that are spelled out, that you do so much with. So our would you say core values are the same as principles?
I would not.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that. So describe the difference.
Yeah, I think the principles, in my case, the 10 We's, they enable us to live the values. So give me an example. What's one of the values of your firm?
Okay, so our values are GOLD, GOLD. Gold stands for give a shit.
Okay.
O is obsessed with excellence.
Love that.
L is loyalty to the team, and
Yep.
D is deliver more.
Okay. Love it, by the way.
Thank you.
Those are really great values to communicate externally what it is that we do, the value we bring to the marketplace, to the world for that matter. And they also do a bit of the same behind the scenes, behind the curtain. What the principles do, so those are the what, as far as I'm concerned. This is what we're known for. This is how we operate inside this team. Mm-hmm. The principles are the enabling mechanism to live those values.
Okay.
And and the reason I'm so adamant about this, Holly, is I think a lot of organizations have really sexy mission statements. They might have really compelling values, but especially in larger organizations, ask 10 people to recite any of them.
Yeah, and
now,
they
you were
can't.
smart. You've got 4, and you don't have a laundry list and this long paragraph on a wall that a lot of organizations have that no one can recite. But if you adopt a series of principles that are largely geared around behavior, you now have an expectation for how we deliver on gold. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to take action. We're going to pick each other up all the way through, all 10 of them. Those enable us to give a shit. Those enable us to follow all the way through G through D. So that's the difference for me.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I apologize for that interjection. Carry on with talking about, what a principle is and what are the 10 We's.
So for a bit of context for your audience, I think it's important. So I spent nearly 30 years in the corporate world, and it was probably around year 24 that I had reached a point where my apathy for the work I was doing was stronger than my desire to do the work. And that's kind of are we allowed to curse on your show?
Yes.
I got the impression we could.
Just keep it real.
Just keep it real. I love it. For me, the apathy was so strong, and I looked around at the very environments that I was tasked with creating, and the apathy became such a mind fuck that it's like, how do you loathe the environments that you created, dude? You were the one that created this culture that we're in. And at the time, I was leading probably 3,000 people. Yeah. Ultimately, ended up, for context, my last 2 roles, I led north of 30,000 people. I've worked for 3 Fortune 10 firms. I've led multi-billion-dollar operations. When you realize that you loathe the environments that you help create, it's a gut check to either do the same thing and get the same results, which is, as we know, the definition of insanity, or I could really invest in my own leadership acumen, and by that I mean actually giving a shit, like you say. I love that. Yeah. So I had this kind of inflection point in my career where I realized if I wanted to do something different, I had to be the leader I never had. I had to lead in ways that I'd never led. And I took a role where there was a bit of cultural deficiency, I guess we could say. Lots of silos, a lot of for me to win, you must lose type paradigm.
Right.
And I realized, I could show up in a starch shirt and some shiny shoes and a fancy suit and say, okay, here's who we are, here's what we're going to do. Or I could literally enumerate a list of things that I'm going to look for. And I want us to be on the same page. And it took some vulnerability for me to actually accept the challenge. So it was my vehicle to create this environment that I call now a culture of excellence. And the 10 W's are incredibly simple, man. There's nothing groundbreaking. There's nothing controversial. But what they do in collection is create this kind of, it's almost like a wrapper around the team that says, first and foremost, the foundational principle, we do the right thing, always. That one word, second sentence matters so much, always. In times of adversity, it's easy to slide a little bit and not be as committed to the right thing.
Right.
But when the team sees the leaders committed to doing the right thing, they're more likely to follow.
Yeah.
And I'll fly through them just for context's sake. The second is we lead by example. Leading by example is not just the strategic things. It's not how we speak, or it's not the persona, the image that we put on. You're already leading by example. We shouldn't ask, should I lead by example? The question is, am I leading by an example that I am proud or would be proud to see replicated?
Right.
That by the way, that goes like when I'm walking through the hallway and I've got my phone in front of me, my face buried in it, and I don't say hello to somebody walking my way. I have now set the example. They don't have to say hello to the next person. Before you know it, nobody's talking.
Yeah.
So the best way to lead by example is to make good on my commitments. Number 3 is we say what we're going to do, and then we do it. It's really that simple. And it starts behind the scenes. Like, I'm sure in your firm, it's a given when you make a commitment to someone externally, a client, it's a given we're going to do that. But so often throughout my career, I've been disappointed by someone saying, yeah, Kyle, I'll get you that by Thursday. Thursday comes and goes. Well, I emailed so-and-so. I don't give a shit about that email. You committed to doing this. We have to have this service orientation behind the scenes as well.
Right.
When we say we're going to do it and then we do it, that requires number 4, we take action. When something's broken, when something's suboptimal, and we know something could be better, most organizations, there's no incentive to raise my hand to say, I got to do this differently, or we should take that on. Even if it's like, let's get it on the list of things to address, but we're not there, we don't have time for this yet, we're not going to turn a cheek to it, though. We're going to recognize it for what it is, embrace it, and eventually get to it. But we're not going to just act like it's not there. That's not even a recipe for mediocrity. When we take action, or if you want members of the team to take action, you got to be ready for mistakes. Nobody's going to nail it the first time, right? Number 5 is we own our mistakes. We got to pick each other up when those mistakes happen. That's why we have number 6, which is literally we pick each other up. It's important for all of us as humans when someone's struggling to say, you all right? Everything good? I noticed maybe you seem a little down, or you were late for today. Whatever the case is, we don't act like it's not there. We pick each other up.
Yeah.
The leader has a further obligation, though, Holly. It is to pick others up to new heights. So someone on the team wants to take on more, do more. Maybe they even want to leave your team. I believe it's our obligation to help them get to that next stop.
Yes.
Why? Do you think they're going to work less hard when they realize you actually give a shit and want them to do more and be more and help them develop? Right? The loyalty is so much stronger when they know you care about personal goals and not just what they can do for you from a business perspective, right?
I agree wholeheartedly. I tell people on my team, like, I just want you to be the best version of you. Sometimes that's with the firm and sometimes it's without. But if you decide it's without the firm and outside of the firm, like, tell me what that is, what that looks like for you. Let's help you get there.
Good for you. You're in a minority. In my experience, it's like, what can you do for this team? And if it's not team related or focused on what we can do here, then I don't have a lot of energy for you. That's just such a short-sighted way of living, let alone leading.
Right.
Number 7 is we measure ourselves by outcomes, not activity. I think activity is important. It leads to outcomes, or it should rather. But in most organizations,
doesn't always, though.
It doesn't always. And that's why it's important to have this one in writing. It's like, I don't care how busy you are. I don't care that you had 13 meetings. I don't care that you're triple booked. Show me your outcomes. If you can't draw a straight line from those meetings into one of the outcomes for which you've been designated or assigned, it should be scrutinized. The real world pays for outcomes. We don't pay for activity. I'm glad my Uber driver gets gas before he picks me up, but I'm not paying for that. I'm paying to get from point A to point B.
Yes.
Outcomes versus activity. My favorite of all the principles is number 8. That's we challenge each other. It's been the most transformative principle that I've seen inside of organizations. It's because it removes this age-old paradigm that the boss is the only one allowed to challenge. And the math will tell you if you're leading more than one person, you can't bring the most out of everybody. You need help. Right. You got to
Yes.
get challenges peer to peer. We need challenges from the team to the leader, from leader to more senior leader.
Yeah.
Without without we number 9, we number 8 is chaos. We number 9 is we embrace challenge, whether it's external market forces, whether it's something the board has issued or someone more senior says, hey, we got to get to this point, whatever it is. We're not going to shy away from it. We're going to lock arms. We're going to be galvanized by it, but we're not going to act like it's not real. And that's where a lot of bosses kind of lose connection with their team, is they act like this big gnarly thing in front of us is not scaring them.
Right.
That's not relatable. There's no authenticity there. I'm not going to trust you if you're not going to be real about what's in front of us.
Yes.
So we got to embrace those challenges. And then, Holly, the last of the principles is something that you is part of gold. It's we're going to obsess over details. We're going to obsess over, because especially in your business and in most businesses, the difference between good and great and really exceptional is how close we are to the details. Our customers feel it. When we're focused on a really quality product or service, our customers feel it. And then we have a sense of pride for doing that work. Hey, man, when is the last time you opened a package from Apple? When you open it, are you an iPhone user?
Of course, yes. How dare you ask me that question?
You're not one of those. Yeah, I'm with you. Remember the last time you opened it, this green arrow on the sticker shows you exactly which direction to pull it.
Yes.
The lid, it's so tight. It's right. Apple puts engineers in rooms for months on end for every new product launch before they determine the right product. Unboxing experiences on YouTube exist because of Apple.
Yeah.
When you open that package, there's magic underneath that box.
Right, yes.
Juxtapose that with something from, I don't know, say IKEA.
Yeah.
Or something from Amazon where
there's definitely not magic in that package of
right.
IKEA.
You're like, holy shit, if I can't even read the instructions,
right.
this product may not be exactly what I expect. So anyway, we're going to obsess over details because that's how we separate ourselves from our competition and mediocrity.
Yeah. I love it. Now, do you believe, I already know the answer, but not everybody has read your book. So we're just going to, for the watchers and listeners, do you believe that these are 10 principles that every organization can adopt, or do you think every organization has to create their own?
My answer might surprise you.
Okay.
It might surprise you. I don't care what your leadership principles are. I care that you have leadership principles, and I care that your team is aware of those principles and you're comfortable being held accountable to those principles because you're going to want to hold them accountable as well.
Right.
These principles have been life-changing for me, and they've been really transformative at this. We've sold like 40,000 copies of the book now. Yeah. And I've been on stage more than ever the last several months. I'm seeing the impact that they're having. I think I know they work in any environment, but if they're not perfect for you and you have your own set of principles, I would encourage you to run down that path, but do something, have something that we can gravitate towards and resonate with us.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about transparency, because that was kind of one of my big takeaways from the book, is like just how important transparency is. And something that you mentioned just a moment ago about, maybe we have external market factors that are, that we're feeling the pressure from, and, certain things that might be big or scary for leadership. How transparent do you advocate to be, like, with the team? Because and I've kind of had a similar conversation on another episode where it's like, sometimes I look at this as like, I want to protect my team. I want them to feel that their jobs are secure and that they can come to work every day and they don't have the same worries that I have. And, because they didn't sign on to that risk. So when it comes to things that might be big or scary within the organization, how transparent should we be with the team?
So I love the question, by the way. I start from the perspective, everything's on the table.
Okay.
Whereas I think many start with, you're on a need to know basis. So I start with everything's on the table, and then I filter back what is proprietary, could be confidential. Maybe it's, human resources related. You don't want to share that dirty laundry. So I start from that vantage point.
Okay.
At the end of the day, to be an impactful leader, you've got to establish trust. And for me, trust is born out of authenticity and relatability. So if we're facing a gnarly problem, and I say, hey, Wendy, let's talk through or Holly, let's talk. I just did a call with Wendy. I apologize. If I say, Holly, we have this problem. There's this new entrant in our marketplace, and we're really struggling with market share at the moment. That's a fact. It's not my opinion. For me to act like I'm not nervous about that, I've lost relatability. It's like, what is this guy? This guy's like, he doesn't see this gorilla staring at us. He doesn't see this threat to us. Like, okay, so if we lost that bit of relatability, trust isn't going to happen. But if I'm authentic in saying, holy smokes, this thing in front of us is real, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to take everything we have for us to get through this. I know I can't do it alone. I really need you, and I hope that you need me for us to get through this. It's real.
Yeah.
So when I'm authentic about the challenges that lie in front of us, and I can relate in a way that you acknowledge we're on the same page, like this is gnarly, we got to get through this. It's going to suck, but it's a short-term thing. That sense of relatability, I think, combined with the authenticity, establishes trust. So I want to be as open as I can. And by the way, when there are things that if we approach content or subject matter where I need to kind of filter a little bit, I'll say so. I'll say, I can't really share all of this, and I hope you can respect that, but here's what I can share. And then the why behind the difference.
Right. Okay. Now I have another question about another one of the we's, and it's the we own our mistakes one. So because I'm really big on 100% personal responsibility. And to me, like always taking I love the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko. Like I'm a big fan of that whole concept and of him. And to me, it feels like freedom to always be taking responsibility because that's the only thing I can control. And so I have tried to sort of, have that theory and that concept, like, be very well known in the firm, and I have tried to really own up to my own mistakes and like show the team like, oh my gosh, I just really like effed this up big time.
Yeah.
All those things. And what I have found is it is still so hard for people to own their mistakes. What is the anecdote to that?
Why? Well, first, why do you think it's hard? It is. I agree with you, but I'm curious why you think it's hard.
From my perspective, looking at the team, just kind of, I think, and again, maybe I need to take responsibility for this. Like, I think they're afraid of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like I've been, very outspoken, like, guys, like X, Y, and Z things you're not getting in trouble for. But if you do X, Y, and Z to cover it up, to pass blame, whatever, like you're getting in trouble for that, but you're never getting in trouble for these things. Like, but it still seems very hard for people to take ownership.
Yeah, not quite there. My goal is to create an environment where people feel free to say things they're scared to say.
Yeah.
And with that comes this notion about owning our mistakes. As cliche as it sounds, a mistake really is nothing more than a data point for us to go a different direction. Mankind is littered with examples of mistakes that became beautiful outcomes. The pharmaceutical industry is a good one. It's called off-label drugs. When they design a drug for X and it ends up being sold for Y, is an example. But when the team is aware that the leader values the output of a mistake, in other words, we know this is the wrong answer. Now we have a different set of data points with which to work. We're going to move in a different direction. Nobody wants to make a mistake. Nobody wants to fuck up.
Right.
So when I create an environment where people say, hey, I did make a mistake, and they see me focus on the mistake, not the person that made the mistake, like literally going out of my way to say, okay, like Jocko says, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right? No problem. Got it. Now, I don't mean to sound naive to your audience. Like, there are fatal mistakes. There are mistakes that should be met with swift action, like you no longer work here. But when mistakes are made out of really honest and good intentions, trying to make a difference, trying to do, especially if it's something we've never done before, we got to embrace that mistake and know that it's not the right answer, but now we're closer to the answer. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but the more you can emphasize it's okay to make mistakes, the more likely your team will be hands up. But the first time that one pops up or one kind of becomes visible to many folks, they're watching you. They're going to see how you react to their mistake. And that's what I found. It's one thing to say we're going to own our mistakes and mistakes are a gift and all these cliche type things. But when the team sees the adversity and they see that I am confronted with a mistake that you made, how do I react? If I bite your head off, a lot less likely they're going to come back.
Right.
If I collaborate with you on us finding a better solution, maybe we bring someone else in, we all work on it together. It's like, okay, the mistake is less of an issue. And now it's about how we're going to get out of this mistake. I really believe, and I bet you agree with this, I don't think most rational people judge others by their mistakes.
Right.
We judge them by how quickly we remedy them.
Yes.
And if we repeat them. I think those are the two criteria that we really, right? When you go to a restaurant and they bought your food up, but they come back out and they bring you a new plate or whatever the case is, or they took it off your bill, whatever the case. It's not how they started, it's how they finished. They made a mistake and they made it right. No harm, no foul.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. There was something, well, there was a couple things I wanted to highlight in your book.
Thank you for picking that up, too. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for writing such good content. So I thought it was funny how one of the, headlines in the book is corporate America, corporate America, but the me is highlighted.
Yeah.
And just talking about how, there's just a huge focus on me. And when I was reading this part of the book, I actually was thinking a lot about parenting because, my husband, I have 3 kids, and he's like, but, how can they not, have more gratitude for this? Or how can they leave their trash there? Like, what are they even thinking? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we are born selfish creatures, right? And I think in today's society, more than ever, everything, you see, or I see all those inspirational quotes on social media, it's about you, you do you, and you watch out for yourself, and you root for yourself. I mean, it is just driven home daily, I think, from birth until death, especially in this day and age, to focus on yourself. So what is the best way to get team members and all of us really, to get us out of that pattern of always being so focused on ourselves and always kind of having the what's in it for me attitude?
Yeah, and I think it's gotten worse actually.
100%.
Right? I think social media plays a huge role in that.
Yes.
For all the good things that it can do. I think it creates this kind of paradigm that for me to win, someone else must lose.
Mm-hmm, right.
And there's nothing further from the truth when we're in a team environment. It's impossible for us to be successful and sustain that success by any one superstar. We all must contribute.
Yes.
So I think the root of the question requires those in a position of authority or leadership inside of an organization to no one's going to volunteer ideas to a leader that's not hearing them. No one's going to focus on us being better collectively versus my individual success if they see the boss focused only on his or her own success.
Yeah.
So that we number 2 of we lead by example is not, as I mentioned, not just strategic stuff. It's, am I behaving in a way that you see that I actually care about your development and your growth, less about my own? Now, I am very open and transparent to say I was not this guy the first 20-ish years of my career. I was the bang my fist on the desk, raise my voice, results at all costs type guy, because it was what I had observed.
Right.
When I made the conscious decision to shift that energy into actually investing my energy into the team, into those around me, the level of fulfillment that comes back dwarfs anything else I'd ever seen before. So it's got to be practiced. It's got to be the leader must walk the walk. They can't just talk about it. When you have a chance, you should recognize and reward those that are being collaborative and partnering with the team and not focusing this. And then words matter a lot. So when I hear things like my team did this or I did that, without any tip of the cap to those on our team, the team hears that. Like I'm not his possession. Like it's not his team, it's our team. And I think the more we talk about and use those kind of really nuanced words when we talk about what it is that we do and who we do it with, those words matter.
Yes. It's just like when I tell my clients in court, don't call it my child, call it our child.
Great example.
When they're in a custody battle.
That's a great, it's probably the best example I've heard, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. I'm writing that down. Okay.
Well, you already have it if you're coaching your clients.
Well, yes. But what I'm writing down is words matter. Like the way you speak about things matters. I always tell my kids that too. Like words matter. Stop saying those words. Stop that negative talk.
That's right.
Yeah, because words do. Yes, it does. And then it informs your subconscious mind and all the things. So words matter. Okay, I love that. Okay, now, so because some people that are listening to this episode, they're owners of businesses. They're leadership in an organization. Other people work for an organization and that are going to be listening to this. So if they have a boss, this is like from your book, if they have a boss that sounds like this, a boss is me-oriented, makes demands, gives orders, and is always at the ready to play gotcha, what do they do? Do they leave? Do they quit? What do they do?
It's the toughest question that I ever get, and I get it a lot. It's very scenario and situational driven. If you think you're going to change your boss, you're probably being naive.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the cultural transformation and leading with these principles is DOA. The boss that really wants, so everybody wants to be successful in the role that they're in, right? So if the person to whom I report is a jerk, doesn't get it, is, it's a lost cause, I'm not going to try to change him or her. I'm going to kick so much ass with my team that they don't have a choice. They got to see what I'm doing, recognize what I'm doing, and see how we have become what we've become. And then it creates a magnetism. But what's even more fun to watch, though, and I've seen this so many times, is when, let's pretend you and I are on the same team. You and I are peers. We both report to this tyrant that we don't like working with. You lead in a way that kind of mirrors his style. Why? Because he hired you and you want to endear yourself to him. So you end up replicating the same toxic bullshit that the things that you loathed are the things that you start to replicate because it works. It got you in the role that you're in. It got you promoted.
Yeah.
On the other side of that coin, though, is when another leader, me in this case, your peer, I create this environment where people actually want to come to work. I'm not naive. It's not going to be 100%. Right. So I'm being.
Yeah, we strive for most days, not every day. That's what I tell the team. Like, if you want to come most days, like that's where we want to be.
It's called work. I just don't want you to hate coming here, right?
Right.
When your peer creates this environment where people actually want to come to work, they look out for each other. Our employee engagement scores from surveys start to show it. Our results start to show it. Another magnetism is created, and people on your team, they start, what's Kyle got going on over there, man? My friend works on Kyle's team, and she loves it over there. So you create this magnetism that ultimately, in the best of cases, the tyrant will see and kind of get out of your way and let you do what you're really good at. Yeah. And then others will also see what's happening, and they'll fight to join your team. Now, I say all of that with full transparency. I've been in the environment, even after creating these principles, after becoming a best-selling author, that the DNA, the toxicity in the DNA just runs too deep. You're not going to change it. And ultimately, you're left with a decision. And it's one of two ways. It's like, go take on something unknown, something scary, something different, or stick where you are, put your head down, probably lack in fulfillment, not have the impact that you want. And by the way, if you choose that route, I got nothing but love for you. We got bills. Yeah. We got commitments. Like, we got to feed the family. So I get it, and I see it all the time. People that have resigned themselves to just saying, "This is how it is." Yeah. You're not wrong, but just know that if you can find the energy to take maybe one or two steps back, the 3 or 4 that you take forward will be some of the most rewarding steps that you've ever taken.
Right. Yes, because you're made for more. Like,
Yeah, well said. I see what you did there.
Yes.
And that's true,
see
man.
What I did there.
Really is. I spent 20-ish years sleepwalking through my career trying to be the most influential, well-spoken, best dressed, most articulate guy, and it was all for naught. Because I looked around and all these people that I felt like they were my trusted confidants, they actually feared me. They didn't respect me. They feared me.
Right.
When I found these principles one evening in Lawrence, Kansas, the night before I was going to meet with these top 40 or 50 leaders of my new organization, I made a decision to lead differently, be a leader that I never had, and let the chips fall where they fell. And I got to tell you, man, 7 years later, the level of fulfillment and impact and watching people transition from being shitty bosses to really impactful leaders is the most profound experience that I've had in probably my entire career. And I'm starting to see it happen in personal lives as well. I gave a talk at Audi not long ago. Well, it's been a while now. And at the end of the talk, a fella raised his hand and we were in Q&A, and dude stood up, big, stocky, burly dude, former Division I football player. He says to this group of executives, probably 70 people in the room, if you embrace these principles, it will have a life-changing effect far beyond your work life. In fact, it's changed how I'm raising my children. I get chills every time I tell the story, man.
Yeah.
So when he said this to me, in full honesty and transparency, I teared up. I just welled up because it was the first time this big Mr. Clean looking guy dropping that level of vulnerability in front of all these other executives. It hit me in a way that I just didn't expect. And now that the book has gotten some more traction, I hear from readers all the time about the impact it's having in their relationships, their loved ones, and especially how they're raising their children, which is,
that's
I'm done.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm done at that point. Yeah. What else can I do?
That's the holy grail, right? I mean, impact is like what we all want. So, you kind of took my impact though, because I was going to be like, and for my last question, please tell me how you've adopted these in your personal life and what kind of impact that has had. But maybe you can just like speak a little bit more to that.
You got it. So in all honesty, it wasn't a light switch. These principles were created, and I led this way for probably a year and a half, 2 years before I started to realize that the response was legitimate. Because when you have the fancy title, you got the funniest jokes, people will tell you these principles are making a difference.
Yeah.
And then they'll walk out of the room and kind of roll their eyes.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Do you mean to tell me that people laugh at my jokes, maybe not because I'm super funny?
Because you're the boss. You know.
What? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Not everyone.
What?
Not every joke. But definitely more than one.
Oh my gosh, you just completely
I'm
blew
sorry
my
to tell
mind,
you, man.
ruined my world.
It happens. It happens. Yeah. I had a rude awakening. I'm not nearly as funny as I thought I was.
Oh
either.
my gosh. Wow.
But so I had this probably a year and a half, 2 year gap that it started to feel as if I was two people. I had this work Kyle who was all about the we, and I was evangelizing this stuff. I was on a soapbox, and we were driving massive change, and the results were there. The fulfillment was there. But one day I was leaving the grocery store, and I wheeled my cart out to the parking lot. And you have to bear with me because I'm that guy for a second. I pull the cart up next to my truck, and I take the groceries out, take that cart and wheel it into the spot right next to where my truck was parked. Didn't take it back to the store. Didn't put it in the little corral thing, whatever it's called, right? So I back up, I start to pull out, and I look in my rearview mirror, just glance up there, and I can see that cart sitting in that parking spot. And I said, you are a hypocrite. First principle, we do the right thing, always.
Yeah, always do the right thing. Yeah.
That's not the right thing. You know that's not the right thing, dude.
Right. Yeah.
So I saw that, and then I realized I was kind of being a hypocrite. And then I just went down this path. Would my wife agree that I live this way, that I lead this way, that I am this person? At the time, she would not have. My friends didn't know anything about the principles. They're like, you're writing a book about what? I said, well, like the 10 W's. What are the 10 W's? We never even talked about it. Yeah. So that moment for me was kind of a wake up. It's like, I think there's some symbolism there that I was still perpetuating what so many of us have endured throughout our career, and that is be one person outside of work, come to work, lose your individuality, your unique perspectives, and fit in. And that to me is a recipe for mediocrity at best. So I realized I needed to be the same person. If I wanted that trust, like we talked about, it had to be authentic. So I had to embrace this outside. And now it's like it never leaves very far from my brain. And if I'm in the gym and I finish a set and I see the plates over there still on, I have to take them off. I have to wipe the treadmill down because I know it's the right thing. You know, if you know it's the right thing and you walk away, you probably need to do some mirror gazing to see if what's driving that. So for me, it was really incremental steps. And by the way, I'm not perfect at it. I don't mean to pretend that I err often and slip often, but it's being self-reflective enough to know that, okay, this is who you are more than it's not. So get back on the horse and do better next time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And all I keep thinking is, do you know how many times where I leave my cart and I get in my car and I'm like, God damn it, fine, I'll put it in the corral. It's hard to leave it. I'm like, I want to be lazy and leave it out, but no, you always go and you got to put it away.
It's not the right thing. It's
not the right thing. Right.
I'd like to think when I err or I really F something up, it's because I didn't know better, not because I knew better and chose not to.
And made a different choice. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being here. You've given me a lot to think about. I mean, I think, as I was reading the book, I was kind of course, self-reflecting, self-auditing. And I think there are definitely areas where I could do better in as a leader. So thank you for that inspiration.
It's my pleasure. I think it's an obligation, and I know it's hard. And that's the thing I hear from a lot of people. It's like, well, when is this going to work? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know how much investment you're going to put into it. I don't know if you're going to take it seriously in every interaction of every day and give yourself and others some grace when they fail. So it's been a beautiful ride since the book came out. And I've just been very blessed with the opportunity to continue to spread the message on platforms like yours. So I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to.
Yes. Thank you for being here. I've got just a little bit more to say. I know some of you watching might be employees of an organization. Some of you may be leaders of an organization, and some of you may be neither. And so my biggest takeaway really comes down to personal responsibility. If you are under someone else who maybe isn't practicing the 10 W's, or if you are leading a team and maybe you aren't, and if you're neither, and you're just looking at how am I going to adopt this into my personal life, it really comes down to taking full responsibility and owning the things that you can control. And I know you can do it because you were made for more.